So my inquiry project was based on some work by someone called Dan Mayer, who has this program called 3-Act Math. Basically, what this platform is very large, vague maths questions about some much bigger problems or a bigger question that he breaks down in certain ways over a period of time, and it aims to give more information over time. So the actual large question will be presented at the beginning of the lesson, perhaps with not enough information given to the pupils in some cases, and it's up to them to decipher what they need and maybe question how to get it. So I chose one of these lessons that I thought would be particularly good for a low to middle ability Year 8 class, based on the mobile game Pokemon Go. Now, the specifics aren't incredibly important, but there's a viral video where someone attaches a phone to a ceiling fan, and the only information I gave the pupils to begin with was the video of this phone being attached to a ceiling fan, and I asked them the question, how long will it take that phone to travel 10 kilometers? Hopefully, what I wanted from the pupils was for them to react and say, I don't know, you haven't told me enough. And that is what I've got. That is what I got from my Year 8 class. And then I said to the pupils, the way I interpreted these lessons was that if their question was good enough about what information they needed, then I would reveal an extra piece of information. So, for example, if they said, how big is the fan? I would have not given them anything. However, if they said, what is the diameter of the fan? Or where on the fan is the phone attached? Or perhaps maybe, sir, can you remind us of the formula for circumference of a circle? Not just, sir, can you tell us all the formulas? I would have given those bits of information if the question was good enough. And I did take some encouragement and guidance over time. But the idea was to for the pupils to improve their questioning techniques and break down this large question, this big question that they had in the first place, into stages. Now, the pupils reacted this quite well, I would say. Their feedback that they gave throughout, at the end of the lesson, if I can open that, the feedback they gave was largely positive. They enjoyed the lesson by the looks of it. They certainly found the problem easier by breaking it down into stages. Now, I grouped them, which was another area of our research in terms of how to group the pupils. Now, I grouped them such that they were in threes of a proper mix of abilities. One pupil was in charge of, once they've come up with a good question, one pupil was allowed to come to the front to see the slide in question. For example, if they asked for the dimensions of the fan, I would show them this slide at the front of the room, and they would have to go back and dictate to those pupils what they'd seen. So that was one role. Another role was the person who was in charge of the writing. Another one was the pupil in charge of the questioning. Now, from my outside perspective, I actually thought that went quite poorly, because the mix of pupils that I did choose wasn't fantastic. The diagrams that some pupils were producing after seeing this for a matter of seconds were not good enough to answer the question. However, the feedback completely contradicts me, because pupils found, it was a small class, but the pupils found that working in a group of 3 helped them answer the question. So it's something I'm looking to experiment more with in future. This was the most striking bit of the Google form that was returned to me. It says that pupils largely were not incredibly confident, or not as confident as other questions, when it comes to the big questions, the big, wordy, large mark exam questions they tend to see in mathematics. Now, unfortunately, these are more related to real life than the pupils will ever realize at this stage. So I tried to get that across, but also the pupils, hopefully, and it did seem to be the case, and their feedback does suggest that they feel more confident about tackling these bigger questions in future after trialing this sort of lesson. The answers the pupils provided were very mixed in terms of their groups, but the whole questioning idea and the teamwork and the group work element of it did seem to be quite successful.